Well, now it's happening. I've seen enough comments on this particular video of mine. It's time we settle accounts. So, my Mammoth Tank video, I made the argument that multi-gun turrets on tanks are a stupid idea. It's time to elaborate why and put to bed some of these biggest misconceptions I keep seeing being repeated in my comments section. But before I do that, if you could all do the YouTube thing, like this content, maybe give me a thumbs up, tap on the old subscribe button, maybe even leave a comment down below. It really does help me in the algorithm. So, back to the task at hand. Yes, tank turrets. Okay, so the most common misconception I've seen is, battleship turrets, am I a joke to you? The fact of the matter is, yes, you are. The real reason naval ships of the era had multi-gun turrets? Well, scale, armor, distance, and a lack of modern fire control systems. I'll elaborate a little bit further on each point. Now, the first and most obvious point is the lack of modern fire control systems. To lob a heavy chunk of spicy steel further than you can see requires something a whole lot of we call math. Now, in a firefight, you know, when the guys you want dead are throwing their spicy steel back at you, there's not a whole lot of time to turn Euclidean geometry into loud ooga booga noises the gunnery crews all over the ship need to understand to point their freedom tubes in the right direction. You know how they solved this? By putting as many damn guns on the ship before it turned into a one-use submarine. This allows you to achieve what we call in the business accuracy through volume of fire. That means if we can't hit you right the first time, we're going to throw so much high explosive at you, even Ariel is going to get liberated under the sea. And if you think I'm bullshitting you on that, buckle up, because I'm about to clap some echo chambers. There are no modern ships today that have multi-gun turrets, except in very specific circumstances when they are meant to fill a volume of oxygen with large amounts of freedom. Thanks to guided missiles, naval guns are now relegated to poking large holes in pirate vessels and other assorted trash not worth a million buckaroos of taxpayer hate. Therefore, the reason naval turrets possess so many damn guns, again, is through accuracy through volume of fire. This is not the doctrine of a tank. A tank does not achieve hits through volume of fire. They are designed to achieve a kill in a single hit, much like a sniper. Fire, maneuver, repeat. We don't have time to be sitting around on our asses, trading shot for shot, with soon some to be flaming heap of a future Russian space turret. I have places to go and things to get done, Ivan. Now, the next 3 points about battleship turrets I can all sort of wrap up into one flaming dog turd of a point. You see the size of a naval ship? Well, just look at the size of it. These things are thicker and curvier than people of Walmart lineups at 3 a.m. And they go in the ocean, the closest worldly analog to space we got here. What I mean by that is it's cold, it's dark, and it doesn't want you living in it. And shit floats in it, because, I don't know, science or some shit. That means you can pack on more armor and more guns because of buoyancy or magic. Something like that. I really don't know much about shipbuilding. I'm not a shipwright. But what I'm trying poorly to say, scaling on land and water are two massively different issues. I'll explain that part in greater detail in the next bit. Now, the next most popular misconception I see is one over parallax and gun articulation. Time to elaborate. And I brought along my trusty whiteboard to illustrate my point. Get ready for some shitty art, boys and girls. Now, you see this picture here of a tank's freedom stick? You see that little nubby protrusion on the end? That is called the muzzle reference system. This, in conjunction with a few other systems, work well to tell the ballistic computer where to put their crosshairs in your sights so you can put warheads on foreheads in one go. Think of it as being frugal with your tax dollars. Now, if you're wondering why I'm pointing out the bulbous protrusion on my gun tip, pay close attention because this is why. Now, if I were to entertain the two guns being in the turret, as much fun as that would be, you would have to select between barrel systems, as each muzzle reference system will have wildly different values. It would mean that the difference between possibly achieving your first strike kill or missing by 100 odd meters. That is not cash money, and that's not how we want to do business. The next little part of this claim is where we have the ability to articulate guns to converge on the target. This is the inside of a tank turret. A substantial portion of the volume of the turret you see is occupied by the gun, the breech, and the compensator and hydraulic recoil system. This is just to move the damn gun up and down. To move the gun left or right by 5 or 10 degrees, we require reducing the entire stability of the turret by uncoupling the turret body from the mantlet and gun. This would require then more just doubling the turret size to accommodate the system requirements. This is where we run into our old friend, science. I'm sure most of you are aware of the square cube law, that one that clearly delineates that simply doubling the size of something doesn't mean its mass increases linearly, but logarithmically. This also applies to steel. Much like a fat guy on a moped, when doubling the turret size, you increase its mass like a factor of 4 to 6, placing additional strain on that chassis, suspension, and engine. This circles back neatly to where I mentioned that scaling works different completely on land. This is why. Ground pushes back, because it is harder than water. The next and biggest hurdle that no one seems to understand is recoil. Guns have massive levels of recoil. It's measured in tons. They shake the ground harder than a big and tall swinger party, if you get my drift. Even with recoil damping systems, the force is enough to rock a tank harder and more energetically than a coked out Charlie Sheen with shots fired. This force will be directed straight back and evenly throughout the turret ring, reducing material fatigue. This is to reduce the chance of your military grade turret parts from cracking and breaking, because the last thing you want is your gun to fire, then the recoil drives that gun straight into your turret bustle, shrinking the length and effectiveness of your freedom rod to damn near zero, faster than looking at a closing time 2 in lingerie. God forbid you're the guy who signed for the tank, because no amount of duct tape and Kentucky thumb is going to close that wound. Now, the next thing I want you to notice is the location of the traverse motors in the turret. Now, imagine if you will. Heck, don't imagine, I'm going to draw this out again. Now, if we move the guns left and right of center, with that force, each shot is no longer being distributed evenly. It is now placing considerable additional strain on the turret ring, traverse motors, as they try to hold the guns in stabilization, plus the additional forces being sent through the hull and suspension. It's going to result in shorter lifespans for the materials involved, as they are subjected to uneven stresses, more downtime for refit and repair, and not time spent fighting. Not exactly the best way to piss away those tax dollars, when you should be pissing them all over freedom's enemies. And finally, this is more of an aside, the BMP-T Terminator, the Gepard, and other self-propelled anti-aircraft gun systems are meant to be accurate through volume of fire and radar, but mostly through fire hosing the enemy with copious amounts of spicy steel, but with chain guns that have substantially less recoil than 105 and 120mm ammunition. Now, realistically, there's only so many ways I will beat this dead horse today, so I'll finish it out. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you found it informative and fun. If that's the case, please by all means drop me another like and a sub, and with that guys, I will see you on the next one.